One rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information, and we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here consent request?
Gentleman's recognized.
So I've got 4 documents I'd like to introduce into the record. The first one is Jeffrey Epstein's 6th story played out for years in plain sight. And Acosta is quoted in here saying, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone." The second document is entitled, "What Epstein's Bodyguard Warned About His CIA Connections." The third document is from Fox Digital. It's titled, "Epstein's Private Calendar Reveals Planned Meetings with Obama Admin Official CIA Chief." And the last document is Wall Street Journal article that highlights Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the former Prime Minister of Israel and head of military intelligence for Israel. It may have held that title when he met Epstein, and then, yes.
Without objection, the gentleman will hold for a second. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one UC request. This is Judge Engelmeyer's decision from August in U.S. versus Epstein, stating the government's 100,000 pages of Epstein files dwarfs the 70-odd pages of Epstein grand jury materials.
Without objection, the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007 and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors, such as Virginia Roberts, you free? May she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information, and we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to the social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you were willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you personally meet with them?
The FBI and the professionals who are handling the cases will.
Were you instructed that it was important to release the documents to the Oversight Committee on the day of my introduction of the discharge petition to release these files?
I don't know what day that was, so no.
Well, they were released that day, and there were victims' names who weren't redacted because they were in such a rush, and the victims are not happy about that. Have you investigated any of the CIA connections? Have you seen the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein, and if you wanted to see it, would they show it to you?
Well, I can speak for the FBI, and that's presuming there's a CIA case file, and I've reviewed everything that the interagency, not I, the FBI, that was provided to us.
Would you be willing to look at the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein?
If there is such a file, and if it has not already been turned over to the FBI will look at any new investigative leads.
Have you made any progress on the pipe bomb investigation January 6th, and have you made any progress on the motive of the Las Vegas shooter?
As to the first, it's an ongoing investigation. We have made progress. As to the second, sir, I'll have to get back to you.
All right, thank you. I yield back.
Chairman, I have a
What we have just witnessed is not a routine exchange of questions and answers. It is a moment that hangs in the air long after the gavel falls. A sitting member of Congress, Thomas Massie, calmly but relentlessly placing documents into the record, citing sworn statements, calendars, and investigative summaries, then turning to the head of the FBI and asking a question that echoes far beyond this room. If names exist in the files, if powerful figures are identified, why has nothing moved forward? Massie's voice did not rise. It did not need to. He spoke with the quiet precision of someone who knows exactly what he is holding. He referenced accounts that have circulated for years, warnings from insiders, and records from the government's own investigations. He pointed to internal FBI interview reports, documents created by agents, documents said to name dozens of influential individuals. Then came the moment that landed like a stone in still water, the acknowledgement that these records exist, that they have been reviewed by the Bureau, but that no new action has followed. This is where the meaning of this hearing sharpens. Not in the shock of any single allegation, but in the space between what is known and what is done. The FBI director, Kash Patel, did not deny the existence of extensive files. He did not deny that multiple administrations examined them. Instead, he pointed to limitations, to prior decisions, to conclusions already reached. The system, he told us, has looked at this before. The system has spoken, and the system for now is still. But government is not an abstract machine. It is made of choices. When Massie pressed further, asking whether the director himself had reviewed the specific interview summaries where individuals were named, the answer was striking. The Bureau had reviewed them. He personally had not. In that exchange lies a troubling question about leadership and accountability. When responsibility is diffused, when review becomes collective and impersonal, who ultimately owns the truth? This hearing exposes a familiar tension in American justice. On one side, institutions insisting on procedure, precedent, and restraint. On the other, elected representatives demanding transparency and answers for the public they serve. Patel emphasized that names are not released lightly, that credibility is weighed, that prior prosecutors reached conclusions. Massie countered with a deeper challenge. If the files contain detailed accounts, if federal agents recorded them, how can the public be told there is nothing there? The conversation widened even further when intelligence agencies entered the frame. Massie asked directly whether any files from the CIA existed and whether the FBI would review them if they did. The response was careful, almost clinical. If such material exists and if it is provided, it will be examined. It was an answer built on conditionals, on process, on interagency boundaries. Yet to the viewer, it sounds like something else entirely. A reminder of how fragmented power can become when accountability is spread across institutions. This is not just about one case or one set of files. It is about a pattern Americans have seen before. The sense that when allegations point upward, toward wealth, influence, or political stature, the machinery of justice slows. The language becomes cautious. The conclusions are deferred to past reviews. Responsibility is handed off to offices, administrations, and decisions made years ago. The public is asked to trust that everything possible has already been done. Massie's final questions cut to the heart of that trust. Why meet with media personalities before meeting with those who came forward? Why release documents in a rush that exposed private names without proper care? Why does urgency appear only when politics demands it and not when accountability does? These are not partisan questions. They are moral ones. What this hearing reveals is a system deeply protective of its own processes, yet vulnerable to the perception that those processes shield the powerful. It shows how easily justice can become procedural instead of principled. When leaders say the Bureau has reviewed it, but cannot say, I have looked at it and here is why we acted or did not act, confidence erodes. Silence fills the gap. In moments like this, democracy depends not on secrecy, but on courage. Courage to reopen questions others have set aside. Courage to confront uncomfortable facts. Courage to say that past conclusions are not beyond review when new scrutiny demands it. The American system was not built to protect institutions at all costs. It was built to serve the people, especially when the truth is inconvenient. As the hearing moved on to other matters, the weight of what was left unsaid lingered. Names acknowledged but not discussed. Files confirmed but not explained. Decisions attributed to history rather than ownership. This is how doubt enters the public mind, not through chaos, but through careful, measured deflection. The story unfolding here is not finished. It will not be resolved by a single hearing or a single answer. But moments like this matter because they draw a line. They remind us that oversight is not theater. It is a test of whether power can still be questioned, whether truth can still be pursued, and whether justice applies evenly regardless of status. In the end, the question is simple and enduring. Will the system look again? Or will it ask the public to accept that looking once was enough? The answer to that question will define more than this case. It will define whether trust can be rebuilt. If you believe sunlight still matters in a democracy, if you believe accountability should not stop at influence, then stay with us. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA. Support our work to expose the truth.